Alright, welcome back to the text product project. In this tutorial we're going to go over the technical aspects of the project. So the first thing I want to share off is my layers here. So I'm in the Essentials workspace. You can click up here in the corner on this little arrow here and switch to the Essentials workspace and get the same kind of result in terms of the workspace. So I'm going to double click on the properties palette and that will expand my layers here. And so if we look here at my layers, I have essentially a merged copy of all these different type together. So I'm going to turn that off temporarily. And I have, well, I'll turn off. And then I have these marks here, which are basically covering up for the drop shadow that I have here on this layer. And if I increase the fill here, you can see the entire image, the little snickers here. I'm going to reduce the fill to 0. And we're going to go through this whole process, but I just want to show you that you can leave the effect that way. And then I have in groups different sides of the actual peanut, and this was smaller. That's why you're seeing it smaller here. And then I actually made it, I scaled it up a little bit more, make it a little bit larger. But essentially that's how you work it, was basically organizing groups. So I got the left top group here, for example, the left middle group, the left side group, the right top group, and then the right side group. It's a good idea to organize your layers. Again, to access that, all you got to do is click on the new layer tab, rename it, and then you can group them by click on this little group icon, and then you can drag things into groups. I have this original palette, which I always recommend an easy way to kind of start out this whole process. Let me turn off these other two layers too. I also have this snicker, just an icon at the bottom here, just kind of show off the product. But let's turn all that off, and I have a tagline here at the top. So the original text here, go back in here, we have, if I open up the group here, we have creamy milk chocolate and so forth down here. And to create a new line of text, all you got to do is grab the text tool over here and click in the stage here. You'll get the Lorem Ipsum generator. It's just a filler type until you type in something. So I can type in, for example, peanuts. I'll do it all cap this time, and then click out. Now, if I double click on the layer, I can, double click on the properties tab, I can expand it, and you'll have the properties to this type here that I just created. So in here, I can change the typeface, or also known as the font, and I like the Arial as a choice here, but I could choose something else. So I can come in here and pick whatever kind of font I want. Again, I would only pick at least 3 different fonts. So I have the Arial in here for black, which is the variation that, there's different different types of Arial you can choose from. So the black one's kind of a bold and deep, rich kind of one. Then you have your point size here, which is the size of the actual font. So I can make it 72, for example. You can actually change this value to a higher value if you want. So I could type in 100 and hit enter. And so even though it defaults to 72, you can go much higher than you need to do than what's listed here. I'll go back to 36 here. Let's see. You have your color choices, so I can click on the color picker, pick whatever color I want. And if I have a image to work off of, like the candy bar here, I can click on the color picker and sample these colors directly from here. And that's how I got a lot of my color scheme here, which is sampling different colors. And then just click OK to escape out. So that's pretty much how you get the different type. Then there's the style effects for the type, and the way you do that is you double click on the layer in the gray or click on the FX icon. Either one will work, and then choose a different effect. So I've got bevel emboss, for example, and you can see what's going on there. Any of these effects, you got to make sure you click on the word, and then you have the options in here. So here you can adjust the size of the bevel and the depth and the type of bevel here, and then click OK to apply it. So bevel emboss I recommend is one effect. Another one is let's see, the stroke. So stroke's a really nice effect. And the third one would be the drop shadow, which you can interactively kind of drag around. Now, real important aspect about these different style effects is you want to uncheck the global light option here. Otherwise, they'll all have the same direction of the shadow, because there might be a reason for you to have the shadow go off to the side or this way based upon your form that you're creating. Okay, I'm going to cancel out here. So for example, if we look at my example here real quick, you can see how some of the shadows, like the Snickers here, is going downwards, and then this one's going downwards a different direction, right? The nougat here is going in a different direction. So very critical to make sure you change those directions in terms of the lighting. Okay, turn that off for a sec. So one important thing is after you create your original group, and again I regrouped this, but you right click and then duplicate the group. I recommend doing this and then renaming it. This will just make it easier and less confusing in terms of getting things kind of disorganized. So I'll call this LT for left side, and then I'll say top, and then I can use GP for group and click OK. So that'd be like left top group, for example. Then I can turn off the original and still have the original, and then I have access to my group here, the left group. So if I was going to redo this, let me turn on one of these Snickers here. The first thing I would do is select the layer and drop the opacity. So drop the opacity so it's easier to see. Then I would select a type, any of these to start with. One way you can do this is you can click on the move tool up here, and instead of selecting your layers, by clicking in here, is you can use the move tool with this auto select option up here. So I just turn it on and off this guy here. You can set it to layer group. So if I want to select the entire group, I could select that and it would move everything as one unit. But I can click in here and switch to layer, and then I can click on individual items, lines of text here. Then I'll have to think about it in here. So it makes it kind of nice. So you can select any of these real easy just by grabbing them, and then once you're ready to line them up, you can move them over to the place, but then you use the free transform tool. So that's under edit, and it's the free transform. The hotkey is Control T or Command T on a Mac, and then you can rotate the type and kind of line it up wherever you like here to follow the form of the object. Now when you're in free transform mode, you can right click and go to skew, and now I could skew the text to make it line up. That's how I did the kind of alignment. And then to accept, all I gotta do is hit enter. And then if I want to add a drop shadow to this, I can double click, click on drop shadow, and again I can move it around as long as I have global light unchecked. Then I can move this and interact with it on my own. So this one, maybe I'll have a sharper shadow, and then click OK, and then click on another line of text, this creamy here, and I can put it wherever I want in here, and again use that hotkey Control T, and I can rotate around, place it in here, and again I can skew it just by right click skew. So if I was doing the top part of the text, I could skew it this way, for example. Occasionally what will happen is I'll want to, let me cancel out here for a sec, do it the other direction. Sometimes it doesn't quite work, so you might find an angle or something that the skew isn't quite gonna work. This one will work okay. I mean, it's kind of lining up just fine, but there has been some instances where you want to warp it or move it in some way. In that case, what you can do is you can hold the control key and actually kind of warp the side here, the angle you want. The other thing you can do is you can right click in here and choose warp, and then in the options up here you can choose like arc, for example, and then adjust the bend here by just dragging this little slider here. And that's how I got, if I go back up to here it is. That's how I got some of these curvier parts here of the text. Okay. So ultimately, you're going to free transform, add those style effects. Make sure you line them up kind of nice and tight, and then add your tagline. I'll go back to the original state here. So I got my cool tagline at the top. And then if you want to do this with a drop shadow, I think is kind of nice. you can use your original layer. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Here's the layer here. All you got to do is, with the mask, all you got to do is double click on the layer and add drop shadow. Click on that and then drop it down and click OK to apply it. What you'll see though is you'll see the candy bar and the text. So what you have to do, instead of dropping the opacity, which will affect both the shadow and the candy bar, you want to drop the fill. The fill allows us to see the candy bar underneath. So that's basically what I do. So anyways, that concludes working with the type. Hope you enjoy this tutorial. It's pretty straightforward. Again, just align your type however you want. Follow the form, add different style effects, add different colors. The biggest problem I found, again, was not having everything organized. These groups really work out well, and using this auto select option. I do recommend putting a background color, so I have gray here instead of white, so you can see it's a lot easier to see. So I recommend doing that, and the way you do that, again, is just click on the new layer tab here, and then you can, and that creates a new layer, and then you can fill in with a paint bucket. So I just grab the paint bucket here and basically just pick gray. So I just clicked in here, slid across, click gray, click OK, and bam, I got gray. It's a little bit darker than the other one, but that's the general idea. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Cheers.